Have you ever changed a variable inside a function, but the value outside did not change? You thought Python updated it, but it didn't. Today you will understand why, and this is where many beginners get confused. So in this video we'll be discussing the scope of a function, or you can call it as difference between global variable and a local variable. So let us understand with an example. So there is a variable x whose value has been assigned. Now there is a function to just show the value of this particular variable. Now, because the task of the function is just to show the value of x, we are putting it in the print statement. And when you call the function, it is simply going to show us the value, right? So we are expecting the output of it to be 10, which is the value of x, and there it is. But what if I change the place of the variable? Instead of putting it outside the function, I am putting that variable inside my function. Now, we have used the same function, that is to print the value of x, and it will be doing its task. Now I want to do one more task, that is I want to use that variable x outside the function, that is just to print the value of x. Now let us see the difference between both of them. So when we wanted to display the value of the variable with the help of the function, it worked. But when we try to display it outside the function, the problem occurred. That is, there is an error. It says that x is not defined. So this is called as scope of the function or scope of a variable. So when you define the variable outside the function, it acts as a global variable. That means it can be accessed throughout your code, anywhere. You can call it anywhere in your whole code. But when you call or define it inside your function, it becomes a local variable, and a local variable cannot be used or cannot be accessed outside the function. So that's what happened here. We tried to use this variable outside the function, and that's what created the problem. So how will you overcome this problem? So when you want a variable to act as a global, being inside the function as well, you will use a keyword as global when you are initializing or defining the variable. So I will declare that this variable x is a global variable, and I have given some value to it, and now I want to use it outside the function as well. Now let us run it and see if this worked and fixed the problem. Yes, it did. So it worked even with the function and without the function as well. So that's the difference between local variable and a global variable. So let us do another example to understand the clear difference between local and a global variable. So there is a variable x whose value has been defined as 100. And because this variable is just to show you how they work, I'm naming it as example. Now, there is a local variable x whose value is 15. So now there are two variables with the same name. One is outside the function and one is inside the function. So this particular function is a global variable, right? Whereas the variable inside the function is a local variable. Now we want to show the difference between both of them. So when I am printing it inside the function, I am also adding a text that this is inside the function, and I want to print the value of x, and this will work only when you call the function, right? So we are simply calling the function here. Now I want to use the value of x outside the function as well, so I have to use a print statement, and this time I'm adding a text that this is going to be outside the function, and again we want to print the value of x. So we have used this same statement inside the function as well and outside the function as well. So let's see if we get the same value for both of them or a different value. We got a different value because when we use the statement or when we use the variable x inside the function, it took the local variable, and when we use the variable x outside the function, it has used the global variable. So these are two different variables with the same name but different scope. So that's the scope in action. So there are some rules to remember when you are working with functions. That variables defined outside the function are the global variables, and variables defined inside the functions are the local variables. So assigning inside a function create a local variable by default. So always use global and scope. You understand how Python manages memory and variables. So this is not just theory, this affects how a real program behaves.